How do you currently deal with uncomfortable emotions? Whether that's anxiety, stress, worry, overwhelm. How do you cope and deal with these things when they happen? Now, there's a lot of advice out there, and often we're told that we have to learn to be able to just sit with the emotions and just let them be. Now, this can work very well some of the time. However, when those emotions feel so strong and overwhelming, that can feel really difficult to do and near enough impossible. So I want to take you through a technique that will show you the incredible amount of power and ability to influence your negative emotions in the way that will best serve you and help you overcome them without having to just sit with the uncomfortableness. And this is a technique I call drop through. And there's 3 steps to this technique, which I'll talk you through. So the very first step is called check-in. Now, what I want you to do is when you feel those familiar signs of anxiety, stress, worry, overwhelm, I want you just to pause for a moment before going off on autopilot and trying to distract or fight or ignore or push away the feeling. Just pause and check in with your body and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Simple question, what am I feeling right now? And this is just for a moment. We're not going to stay here for long, but it's giving you the ability just to pause and tune into what is actually going on in your body and what you are feeling before immediately going off on autopilot and trying to get rid of it. Now, the second C is called create. And this is where I want you to start to build up some details around this feeling. Because the more details we can get about that feeling, the easier it's going to be to intervene. So you can do this by asking a variety of different questions. The first is, if there was somewhere in my body where I feel this anxiety, for example, where would that be? So it may be in your chest, in your throat, in your head, in your shoulders. Wherever that is for you, there is no right or wrong answer. So I want you to find the location in your body. And then go one step further and ask yourself, if this feeling had a shape, what shape would that be? And again, just allow whatever comes to mind. It may be a square, a circle, a spiky ball, whatever comes to mind. And then go one step even further. If this feeling had a colour, what colour would that be? So we've got a location, we've got a shape, we've got a colour. And then you can go even further. Is this feeling light? Is it heavy? Is there a weight to it? Is it 2D? Is it 3D? So as a result of all these questions, we've built some really strong details around this feeling. Again, the more details you have, the easier it's going to be to intervene. And remember, these emotions that you're feeling, they're actually sensations in your body, just like other body sensations such as sneezing or coughing. However, when we feel these emotions, it can feel like they are coming from someplace deep down in our core. However, that's not really the case. And we can start to dissociate from these things. And we don't actually have to take them so personally. They are found in our body just like other sensations that we go through on a day-to-day basis. So again, the more details you can create around this feeling and this emotion, which shows you the amount of control that you have to be able to pinpoint where you're feeling these things, the better. So the idea here is to get a picture of what this feeling feels like for you. And this will highlight to you that it's actually something separate from you. Then the third C, which is my favorite part of this technique, is called collapse. So when you've got all of those details around that feeling, that location, the shape, the color, the intensity, I want you to just close your eyes for a moment And just spend a few moments taking a few nice, slow, deep breaths. So in through the nose and out through the mouth. You can even do this for the count of 4 on the breath in and out for 4. And just do a few rounds of this just to settle into your body for a moment. And then what I want you to do when you've got that feeling, just want you to imagine dropping through that feeling to the level below it. Almost like you're dropping through a cloud. And just notice where you land and how you feel. And you may get a feeling, you may get an image, a sense, a picture, whatever that is for you. So just to drop through that original feeling and notice where you land. What's underneath that? Once you've got that answer, I want you to do exactly the same thing. So if I were to drop through this feeling, what's the feeling underneath that? So you may get to sadness, tension, anger, irritability, whatever that is, just allow that feeling to come to mind. And I want you to continue doing this. Continuing to drop through that feeling to the level below it. And then drop through that feeling to the level below that. And keep going until you land on a positive. Whether that's happiness, peace, comfort, safety. Keep dropping through those feelings until you reach a positive. And what I want you to know is that negative emotions will always collapse into a positive. And when you first do this, it may take 10, 20, 30 drop throughs to get there, but you will get there, so please persevere. And when I did this the first time, it took me 30 drop throughs to get to peace and comfort, but I got there. And the more I practice this technique, the faster those uncomfortable negative emotions collapsed into something positive. So perseverance is key when you first do this. And once you've landed on that positive emotion, I want you to then create details around this feeling. So again, exactly like step number 2, I want you to ask yourself, if there was somewhere in my body where I felt this peace, for example, where would that be? So give it a location. And then if this feeling had a shape, what would this be? If it had a color, how does this feel? Is this feeling light? Is it heavy? Is it 2D? Is it 3D? So again, build as many details as possible around this new positive feeling. And then once you've got these details, I want you just to spend a moment breathing in and out and really connect to all those details of this new positive feeling. And use your imagination and do whatever you need to do to turn that feeling up, make it even stronger. So you can ask yourself, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, how strong is this feeling of peace right now? If it's a 6, for example, you will ask yourself, what will I need to do to turn that feeling up and make it even stronger? So what would I need to do to turn that 6 into a 7? And again, you use the power of your imagination, but you've got the details to be able to do this. So you may try making the feeling lighter, spreading the feeling, turning the color up, making it brighter. And you can just play around with this. Everyone's different, so there's no right or wrong. So just play around with those details and do whatever you would need to do to make that positive feeling even stronger. And when you've got that as strong as you can possibly make it, you can just spend a moment with your breath in for 4 and out for 4 and just connect to that positive feeling and really enjoy that for a moment. And actually knowing that whenever you need to, you can come back to this feeling and connect to it again. So if at any point during your day you get overwhelmed with those old negative emotions, you can actually spend a moment by closing your eyes and connecting to that positive feeling and all those details and do whatever you need to do to turn that feeling up. And this is a technique you can do multiple times. Like I said, practice makes permanent. So the more you do this, the more your brain will learn what it needs to do to collapse that negative emotion into something positive. And the more you do this, the faster that process will happen. And you can do this with any uncomfortable emotion, any negative emotion, any overwhelm, any worry, any stress. You can actually check back in with yourself and go through this 3-step process. So number 1 was check in with your body just for a moment before going off on autopilot and trying to get rid of that feeling. Then you would go to create, build up those details around that feeling. The more details you get, the easier it's going to be to intervene. And then the 3rd step of the process is the collapse step. So continuously dropping through those negative emotions like you're dropping through a cloud until you land on a positive emotion. And negative emotions will always collapse into something positive. And you may need to persevere with this, but the more you practice this 3-step drop through technique, the quicker your brain's going to catch on to what you're doing, and the faster those negative emotions will collapse into something positive. So please give that a practice and a try, and get in touch with me if you've got any questions about this technique, or if there's anything else on your mind that you'd need help with. Please get in contact with me today. But give this a try.